All right. So hopefully you had some time to reflect. And again, I 100% mean it. At the end of the day, I felt lonely at times. And so even though I came from 2011 core, even though I'm a native Memphian, there were times when I was like, who can I call on? And sometimes I need to take a step back and remember there are people that I can call on, and there are people that I can reach out to. And so I seriously, if you feel like you need somebody to reach out to, you could always reach out to me because I definitely love you. And you have other people probably that you don't even realize that are out there for you. But back into the love story of Haley. Y'all, I have to make sure I got it right because my pronunciation, that Southerner. Okay. Haley and Peter, hearing more about their story. So we're going to take a little pivot. So let's talk about your individual stories of one day. We know that that's why we all joined Teach for America. One day all children will have access to excellent education. But what was your individual story? What was your individual dream? And then how are you currently living that out?
Yeah. I think I admittedly don't feel like I have a clear answer to that question. I think it changed often, multiple times during a week of the school year, especially in the beginning. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer when I started college, got off that very fast in college, but still didn't know for sure. And I thought that I wanted to be in a place where the people around me, speaking of that community and that the city community and the TFA Memphis community were just powerfully committed to having an impact on kids and families and the community. And education for me was a very obvious way to do that. And it's just always been such an important part of my life. My dad is an educator and my mom has worked on a college campus for my whole life. And so I always have loved communities of education and just saw it as not some grand plan, but just if I can be a part of this group of people that is really committed and is trying to help students and communities, then I will be glad to do it, even if I have the tiniest impact imaginable. And then I think I also just kind of got very lucky. My placement school, KIPP Memphis Collegiate High School, was it was during, I think, this sort of heyday of college and career counseling at KIPP. And I worked with seniors, and I saw my school and KIPP nationally had this massive commitment to supporting students to figure out what they wanted to do after they graduated from high school, and being really intentional, about giving kids opportunities to learn about different pathways and learn about the different options that they could pursue after they left high school. And I was didn't know that was a job, didn't know that was a thing that high schools were doing anywhere in the country in a really meaningful way, other than just a guidance counselor that has 400 students on their caseload. And so, but what KIPP was doing was really different, and I kind of fell in love with the idea of that work. And so after my 3 years working in English, I was able to move to a role, and it's called Junior Seminar. But I worked with only 11th graders, and our work was intended to set them up for senior year and set them up with as much research and opportunities to learn about different career paths and different college options and different trade schools, tech schools, whatever it might be. And I really fell in love with that work. And so I now work at the Soulsville Charter School here in Memphis, but I work with 12th graders, so I'm doing senior seminar now. So it's version of the same thing. It's college and career counseling. I get to teach a class some days, but I'm really a college and career counselor who also teaches a class. And so that is the work that I'm currently doing that I love to do. It's very, very rewarding, and feels like a great intersection of some of the things that I just noticed is really important and really missing in schools and in Memphis. And so I feel very lucky that I've gotten to be in that role and do that work. But for now, that's it. I don't know. I love working with seniors and their families. And again, if I can have the tiniest impact helping a student at Soulsville learn about another option, or get this trade tech school option locked in and find funding for it or whatever, or I will be glad.
Yeah. He's really good at his job too. His kids love him. We can't go anywhere in Memphis without a teenager freaking out because they're seeing Mr. Rosenberger in real life.
Oh,
I know. I first heard about TFA in high school. I grew up in a suburb north of Dallas, and great school system, really privileged access to good schools, and teachers, and I went to a project-based high school, actually, which like I now realize is a charter school. I didn't really, maybe not in the sense that we think of in Memphis, but like it was the one alternative to the giant traditional high school in my hometown. And I went there in like its second year of operation. So I was a guinea pig, started as a freshman there, graduated, and it attracted a lot of different, like really talented teachers and folks who were really interested in project-based pedagogy and in like exercising this new, or new to them type of education. And so my school attracted a TFA alum who had done his commitment in Miami. Very different environment from where I grew up, but he came to this school to like practice this project-based PBP education. And he like really helped me and like other small group of students like see outside of our kind of suburban bubble. It was like the first time I thought about education as social justice. The first and I was in high school. Like I should have realized this way sooner, but it kind of opened my eyes to like what teaching could be. I had really never considered it, and I was starting to think about like I wanted to be a lawyer. I thought it was very like I was very similar. Thought it would be like very it's very sexy to like think about being a lawyer, like very intriguing. It seems like interesting day to day, and it's similar to Peter. Like I had an experience where I interned like in DC, and it wasn't in a law office, it was on the Hill, but it was like reading and writing all day, right? Which is really what part of what being a lawyer is, or many of the hours that you spend if you're a practicing attorney. And I was like, I don't think so. Like, I don't think I can do this. And by the time I did my internship, like I did the early deadline for TFA. So like when I was a junior in college, I knew that I
did the opposite. I was like one of the last deadlines, and she was a junior. Like I'm doing TFA, and I was like, I don't even know. Like I graduated in 3 weeks, talking to principals. Anyway.
So I knew I was coming to Memphis. Was gonna do my internship because I graduated early, whatever. And then, so the reason like I applied to Memphis and was inspired to was partly by this teacher I had in high school, and I personally like grew up loving reading, loving writing, and he really introduced me to this idea of like writing and reading as like liberatory concepts and like really vital to being able to speak for yourself, and like marginalized communities having the tools that they need to speak for themselves and not have others speak for them or try to speak for them. And I was really lucky to get a placement as a reading teacher. Like third grade is a very difficult year to teach, very, very difficult. And I also loved it. Like, so it was really a joy to be able to teach reading for 4 years. And especially at a point where kids are starting to comprehend and engage with the stories, and we're shifting to really engaging in those comprehension skills. And I think as the years have gone on, I had control in my classroom to an extent, but I really found myself butting up against like the broader systemic conditions that curtailed what I could do in my classroom or the impact I could have. And I still think a lot about wraparound services and what happens outside of the classroom that influences the way that kids show up to school. And now I work for a national nonprofit called Education Pioneers, and what we work on is bringing talented leaders into the education sector, or as a transition from a classroom role into central office roles or general management roles. So like the folks that are working behind the scenes to set the conditions or create the conditions that allow teachers to show up and students to show up and to create like those learning environments, things that are actually like not sexy, right? Like not like the big flashy lawyer dream that I had, but like who is making sure that teachers get paid on time? Like who is creating like these really high lift but like high reward, high leverage strategies to attract the best and the brightest, or like make sure that the school buses get to their routes on time. Like these things that we don't necessarily think about, but there are roles in these big school districts, small school districts, at CMOs or education nonprofits, right, that impact the way that teachers and students are able to thrive in classrooms. So I'm definitely in that like pulled back impact space now, thinking about systems and what things look like across the country. And yeah, I think, yeah.
And she also, Haley did Education Pioneers before working for them. And
It's a fellowship program.
yeah, it's a fellowship, and so like got to be a fellow through Education Pioneers and have like a transition out of the classroom into a Memphis-based ed nonprofit, which I just think like that as again like I love to like I just like look at the scope of her work and like thinking about how her impact has changed in her roles as like a teacher, and then working in a Memphis nonprofit and then now a national nonprofit, and it's just like at every level, the direct impact with kids and families, and then zoomed out slightly working on literacy issues with All Memphis, and then now like again just a layer zoomed out at EP, helping them bring these great leaders into districts, into CMOs to try to make a big impact for students and families and schools. So it's very cool. Yeah, very, very cool.
Don't you love how they support each other? Oh my goodness. Shout out. Okay, so speaking of support, how do you all support each other? Like at the end of the day, how do you help push each other and give each other that added encouragement? You just kind of model it, but just more so making the implicit explicit of how you do it and get it all done. And because it's still thankless and tireless work. No matter what we talk about, education is very hard. We definitely love Teacher Appreciation Week and all that, but a lot of times in those certain roles, if you're not a teacher, you might not get as much acknowledgement or X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, the first thing that came to mind, and this is both a joke and probably not as much of a joke as I would like it to be, but like sometimes hard week, hard month, and just like I'm gonna have a little breakdown maybe, and like you gotta hold me, you gotta be there. Because otherwise, I'm just gonna be sitting on the tile floor by myself, and so feel very lucky that that's not what happens anymore, and I now am on the tile floor, and Haley is hugging me while I have my struggle, but so there are those like very obvious, just like those things. Haley's a very good cook. I am not. But we do, I think like we will share the like if it needs to be, if Haley's had a rough, and Haley works from home, sometimes I'll come home and I'll walk into the office and I can tell pretty quickly like this might be a day where I need to make dinner, because whatever, the vibe, the report on how the day was after we get home is clear that like so we take things off of each other's plates.
I think like some of the kind of not as exciting things, but things that have a huge impact in how you can persevere through tough times or like tough periods at work or in your personal life or whatever is like caring for each other in these very mundane ways. Like I do like to cook, and I do enjoy like Peter's vegetable consumption increased substantially when we started dating, and so I do like to.
I was surviving.
Continue.
I was getting by.
Continue nourishing like my husband and make sure that he lives past 42.
Yeah.
But like he takes care of me in a lot of ways too, and it's just like the little small things you don't have to worry about because your partner is like thinking through those things for you on occasion, and then like being with someone who is like smart and thoughtful and who I can really treat as a thought partner, and who will hold me accountable when necessary, right? And be like push my thinking and like point out when I'm being too pitying or whatever, or like help me see a scenario from a different vantage. Like that's really immeasurable to have someone that's so like you can trust their thinking, you can trust their judgment, like they're capable and able to like see the situation you're in and not be like, it's easy, right? To be like, you're right about all of that. Like everything you think about this situation is correct. But to have someone who's like, I can see why you would feel that way and X, Y, Z, or like validate me when it's pure validation, but also like push me when it's appropriate.
And I think too, just like being teachers and former teachers, like thinking about the conversations we had with students, like when it was clear to us maybe that they weren't like being fully like kind or fair to themselves, and I just think about like the conversations that we both had to have with students all the time about that, and I also just think about how important that is in a partnership that is a relationship or a partnership that is a work relationship, whatever it might be. But like, I know that, and I think this is like, I've met a lot of people who happen to be perfectionists that have done Teach for America, and a lot of those. I've seen a number of those folks who like, they are really at times, because they want to be doing really good work, be really unfair and unkind to themselves in their like reflection on their practice and their work. And I just think that when we can point out those times for each other, you know, it's just like we are really, I think, helping each other in a big way. And so, and obviously those conversations, and that's like a, you know, bigger relationship question, but you know, sometimes you might not immediately be able to hear it being pointed out that you're maybe not being fair or kind to yourself. And that's obviously, it can be hard to hear that, but what I know to be true and what I know is really important is having a partner who will do it, you know, because it maybe is a little risky, but like it's risk that we both know is important and that we both appreciate, because we certainly want each other to point that out, and it is like a way for us to help each other, to have each other's backs, and to help each other see that. And
I really love this idea of being kind to ourselves and self-love. I was actually with some young girls here recently, and I was asking them things about experiences as teenage girls and things. It was so funny. One girl was like, at the end of the day, the most important thing is self-love. And she won this tirade, but it was beautiful because I didn't realize it. But I think in this world we are now, it's so easy with social media, with comparisons, to really get hard on ourselves, especially as we get further out in the alumnihood. You start to look around and seeing other people, and you're like, oh wow, you started this, and you're proud of your friends, or oh wow, you're doing this. But that can make you feel like, oh, I'm not enough, or I'm not doing something. And so I think it's good to be kind to yourself, to give yourself patience, to give yourself grace, to give yourself love. And it's really great to have a partner that can do that too, because it's easy. It's so easy to just go into, oh, I can't believe I said that. Like, I'm right now thinking about y'all looking at me and my nails are not done. Like, oh, they're gonna see that. You know, so it's just all those things that are going in your head, all that negative talk. And if we don't change that negative talk, we won't be able to do all the things that we're destined to do.
Yeah, I think like very lucky to have that in my partner, and also I have like dear friends who provide the same sort of support. And I think like it is, as think a lot about friendship and community, especially as we age, and how you can't have your partner be everything, right? And so like I think I rely on my friends, and they rely on me a lot too, to provide those kind words and that accountability and that love. And those are, most of those people did TFA Memphis as well. So like,
and they are coincidentally all alum teacher Memphis.
But that's also an excellent point too. So we have that teach yourself, kind, be nice to yourself, but also I love this point you come into, Haley, on accountability, because I think there is a world nowadays where it's easy to explain away our issues and things of that nature and try to opt out, you know. But just like we would do when we were in the classroom, kids couldn't opt out, so we can't opt out. And so that accountability comes in through partnership, and showing accountability is also, and holding someone accountable is a sign of love as well. Because I'm saying I know you can do it. I believe in you.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. I just want to be with y'all all night, but I cannot, and I know they probably are now inspired in so many ways. And if you're not, then I don't know what you're watching, because look, this was really, really beautiful. And I think both of them hit something on a multi-layer. Yes, it's about the love of this beautiful couple, but really they kept bringing back the power of partnership and friendship. And that can be with romantic love, but also that could be with your friends or even your colleagues. And so at the end of the day, think about how, one, you're being kind to yourself and you're really giving yourself that positive self-talk. And two, how you're showing love to yourself and others by holding them accountable and holding yourself accountable. I can't wait for our next episode. It's going to be amazing. Please share this with everyone you love, and even those you don't love, to remind them to love somebody else. And also show us some love with those likes, okay? Show us some love with those likes. And then in the chat, just share any ideas you have on how you can continue to produce love in our universe, in our world, as we do all this hard work out here in education and beyond. All right, see y'all later. Love you. Bye.